Hi, and welcome to DevJams. This is a podcast where we talk about interesting, innovative things that developers have built using Cloudinary. I'm Jen Brissman, and I'm a technical curriculum engineer here at Cloudinary, and I am joined today by Maribel Mullins.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Maribel. We both have the double wave going on. I love it. Maribel, tell us a little bit about yourself, your role at Cloudinary, and why we have you here today as a co-host on DevJams.
Yeah, you might have noticed Sam is not here. So I'm a technology partner manager and I lead our partner built integrations program. And I happen to come across all of these wonderful partners and they're integrated with Cloudinary. And I just want to showcase and show you how they're integrating. I'm taking Sam's place for this episode and hopefully able to fill in his shoes.
Awesome. Let's welcome Webster West to the show, and we'll be hearing about Movidmo and all of the awesome things that he brings to the table. So welcome, Webster.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
Hi.
welcome.
I can do the double wave too.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Okay, so Webster, tell us a bit about yourself and a bit about why you're here today.
Yeah. I'm Webster West. I have a sort of a different background maybe than most of your DevJams people you have on. And I am a sort of a background as an academic. I was a professor of statistics for 21 years. I, along the way, developed a program called StatCrunch that ended up taking over my life. And that company was acquired by Pearson back in 2016. And after that, I retired from academia and started working on other things. And one of those things was Movidmo. And Movidmo is a video editing, video design software tool that relies heavily on Cloudinary.
Before we hear about Movidmo, and we know that you have a background in academia, how did you get into computing?
My first exposure to it was with my father programming in BASIC on a Commodore 64. And I remember looking at some of his code that he had written to solve algebraic equations that were on a floppy disk. It was back in those days. So that was my very first exposure to it. And then my own sort of coding background began between my junior and senior years of college, where I was on an NSF fellowship. And I started writing code to model mud waves on the ocean floor.
Wow.
So that was my initial, it was a very scientific type of thing I was working on, but I took to it immediately. And I've always loved coding since.
That is so cool. And I really think that having a different background and not maybe the typical CS degree and coding from the very beginning, I think that just makes you a more well-rounded developer. That's awesome. It's cool to hear about that. Tell us, what was step 0 and what was the need for Movidmo?
Yeah. So after my time with StatCrunch had wrapped, a friend of mine wanted to do something together. He was also into technology. And we spent a weekend away thinking about ideas. And just at the end of that weekend, I showed him a little program I'd written to show my kids how animation worked. And he loved it. And that sort of eventually turned into Movidmo. We basically started the company, I don't know, a few months later. And so I'm co-founder and currently CEO at Movidmo. We are still like 2-person shop, so we are extremely small. I write all the code. My partner, Waddy Thompson, I should mention his name, does provide a lot of feedback, but so far I'm the coder. He does a lot of the design work and things of that nature. I'm also involved in all the business aspects of Movidmo, from Google ads to Facebook ads and all the marketing and advertising. I've learned a lot about things that I knew nothing about a couple of years ago. So I'm just trying to do it all here, but I really focus most of my time on coding.
I love that story that the very seeds of Movidmo are really in an example program that you wrote to show your kids how animation works. And I'm wondering, how much of Movidmo today can you point to that original program you wrote to demo to your kids?
I would say the original 6 objects, I called them all nodes, just a simple object that described how things move on the screen. And that's still the core of Movidmo. It's changed a little bit, but that description of movement is still the core of our code.
I would love to get into the integration with Movidmo and Cloudinary. And if you could explain or demo Movidmo at a high level, and then get into where Cloudinary came into the equation.
Sure, no problem. So this is just the Movidmo homepage. I thought I would start here to touch on that integration with Cloudinary right off the gate. Now, all the videos that you see here are hosted on Cloudinary. So all the content, images and video are hosted on Cloudinary. So I told you Movidmo was a video design tool. It's like a Canva for video, for those who might be more familiar with image editing with Canva, things along those lines. I think it's very important for any online design tool to have easy entry points. And the easiest way to get into Movidmo is to start looking at some of the templates that are available. And so here's some of the latest templates that I and my partner have developed here. And when I talk about template content, what I'm really talking about is a video that's been created for a specific purpose that you can use to basically modify the content, customize it, if you will, with your logo, with your URL, with your email, contact information, whatever the case may be. And you can create your own video based off that initial template. Let's just jump into the template library completely here. So I'm going to just click the Get Started button up at the top. And you'll see those same templates listed here at the top of the listing. Let me just hop into one of the templates here. So let's check out the Fall Vibes template. All of our templates come in wide, square, and vertical format. And I'm going to just edit the wide version here. All right, so this is the Movidmo video editor that we're in now. So it's meant to be a very easy to use tool that you can use to quickly create content. And that's been our goal. So I always tell people that I've designed this tool with my mom in mind. So my mom, nothing against my mom, but she's not overly technical. And so I tried to do some things that I think she can, with a little bit of effort, learn how to use. So the basic structure here, I think, is something that is probably familiar to most of the people who are watching the podcast. You've got some basic navigation across the top, and then you've got the core menu items for the editor over here on the left. You can change the backdrop, which is a sequence of videos and images that are designed to be full screen background for your video content. You can choose music. You can add other types of elements to the video. And this is where the magic happens. So you can add captions, you can add images, you can add videos on top of videos on top of videos. You can add animations, which is the thing I'm probably most excited about with Movidmo. You can add design filters, which are meant to be transparent types of layers that really make video or imagery more interesting. You can do icons. We have the Font Awesome icon library built into Movidmo, and a whole shape library as well that you can add. This particular template is built with an animation in the background. I'll double click it to open it. And so this is the animation settings. So this is one of our basic animations. It's called the bands animation. You can change the colors, how long it takes before the animation repeats itself, its period, where it starts in terms of its X and Y location, things like that. So this is just an example of one of the Movidmo animations that you can use. We have close to 50 of these animations that are currently available that you can customize. So it's got an animation in the background. It's got some imagery that's changing here as you move across the timeline, which is shown at the bottom of the screen here. This is a 14-second video. You can change any of these images by just double clicking it and then clicking replace, choosing a different image. You can control how the imagery enters and exits the video. Those types of effects are really scroll stoppers. What most people would do here is change the URL and put in their own blog site or add their own logo or whatever the case may be. Most of our templates come with a spot for a logo. We have a generic placeholder for a logo. And you edit things by just double clicking. And you can also double click on them over here on the right. This is what we call our inspector, our second inspector. So the timeline is laid out by seconds, and then the content for each second is shown over here to the right. And you can double click to edit any of those things that you see there.
Okay, a few questions. I have so many questions already, and I don't want to interrupt your awesome demo, but
No problem. Go ahead.
so much of what's happening on the web, and especially with e-commerce or advertisements, is about grabbing people's attention, and animation is such a big part of that, and nothing's static anymore. And what I'm noticing with this demo that you're doing is it's reminding me a lot of, like you said, Canva, but for animation and video, or also Wix and other site
Right.
creators that have a drag and drop element for the non-technical audience. So I'm wondering, who is your audience, and are they mainly non-technical?
Yes, at this point, we haven't done a lot to cultivate sort of individual markets that much. We've done a lot of basic Google ads, Facebook ads, and things like that. And most of our users, I would say, are more similar to my mom.
Yeah.
And so they are people without a design background, without a technical background, who are maybe small business owners or just individuals that are looking to create video content, educators that are looking to create video content. And they come to Movidmo, they find something, like I said, that catches their eye, a template that catches their eye, and they start editing it. So that's what most people, in fact, that's what I would recommend. If someone was coming to Movidmo, that would be the way I would start. Most people don't really have the design background to start with a blank canvas necessarily. So starting with a piece of designed content and then modifying it is what most of our folks, our best users, I would say, is the way that they work.
Yeah. And that totally makes sense. And what you said about your mom being a target audience or a small business owner, really. But something I was thinking about too is when we went into this template, you chose the widescreen option. I noticed there were 3 different sizes, and maybe this is something when we look under the hood that you can tell us about, but I wondered if you had anything in place to help with serving optimal formats and sizes depending on the device that someone's on or that the animations need to be served on.
We don't do the serving ourselves. We have our sizing optimized basically for what Facebook and Instagram want. And YouTube for that matter too, in terms of our wide format.
So it's really aspect ratios and different sizes that someone might want based on their devices, but it's not a different file format or compression. It's just a sizing.
It's just a sizing. It's different pixel sizing.
Pretty cool.
That's right. And our users do have to have some knowledge. If they want to do an Instagram story, then they need to do a vertical format. If they want to do a Facebook or Instagram post, then they probably want to do a square format. If they're doing YouTube, they would want to do a wide format. So there is a certain level of familiarity that the user needs to have with those platforms in terms of deciding what size that they want. And sometimes they want all the sizes. And for a marketing or advertising campaign, I've seen our users come in and do wide, small, and vertical in versions for all sorts of different platforms.
Yeah. And it seems like you said there's a really low barrier to entry. So if your mom's getting a lot of airtime on this episode.
I know. Yeah. She wouldn't like that, but yeah.
It's really just about someone who doesn't have a background in design or in technology. So maybe it's just a learn as you go type of situation where someone might choose, oh, I'm making a story, I'm going to choose a square format. And then they make it and then they try to load it into their story and realize, oh, this isn't the right size. And let me just go back. And it's a quick click and easy change, I'm sure, on your end for someone to get the right size. And they just will quickly learn and want it done.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, that's certainly the goal. We've done a lot of work. It almost feels like AI type of work to take content. You can use the resize under tools. We have a resize option.
Okay.
And it's interesting the way that you have to think about taking something that's in widescreen format and compressing it down to square and then further into vertical. So
Right.
there's some interesting, from a coding perspective, some sort of interesting things that go along with that we've tried to do most of those hurdles for our users, but sometimes it does require a little bit of effort on their part to clean things up a bit.
Yeah. And then also going back to what you said, you're on a 2-person team. All of this is happening under the hood. Do you have anyone to look at your code or your work, or you just see, okay, I'm the one doing this and what works and I better work on it more if it doesn't work?
Yeah, I'm the lone wolf in that regard. So I do all the coding, and my partner does help some with testing. I think I probably have used this piece of software more than anyone. I know where the issues are that other people will probably never stumble across, but Yeah, I think a lot of that is just my experience. I've done this a long time at this point. I feel pretty comfortable doing that development cycle primarily on my own.
Yeah.
I'll occasionally ask a friend or someone to take a look at something in terms of how they look at the UI and things like that. But generally, this is my jam here. This is,
Yeah.
I've designed it and built it. Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
I had a question about the backdrop and the music. I guess if I'm using this, do I own those images or that music, or are they free, or how does that?
So that really gets into the
Mhm.
pricing structure that we have. We have two types of content: what we call user content, which is big content that the user brings to us, and then we have premium content. So we have partnerships in place with Getty. So, for example, if I click on Add Video here, Getty pops up the as the primary source for choosing a video. We also Pixabay, which is a free video library, is available. We have some color videos of our own that we make available, and then the users uploads as well. So this is premium content that you see here. This is all from Getty, and if you create a video with Movidmo that uses Getty content, then it costs a little bit more. It costs 3 additional credits, basically. Credits are about $4 a credit to use video content from Getty, and we pay Getty for that. Pixabay is a free source, and it's nice. There's some things there, specifically if you're doing something related to nature. Pixabay has a lot of nice video content. The music, it's going to replace the music. It's randomly chosen, by the way, if you start from scratch. But all this music is music that we've acquired from Getty. We have around 1,000 songs, I think, total that are in the music library. That you can search. This is an aspect of Movidmo that I'm interested in working on in terms of, we want to break it down more by genre, rhythm, things like that. If you're looking for a pensive song to go along with your content, or a poppy song to go along with your content, I want to make it a little bit easier for you to find that. But hey guys, just in terms of Movidmo, of course, all of Cloudinary, all the imagery that you see here is hosted on Cloudinary, and the actual music files are hosted on Cloudinary as well.
Awesome. I love that you're using Cloudinary for audio. It's something that people first learn about Cloudinary for images, and then they realize, oh, Cloudinary does video. And then even audio comes in there, which is technically a video file, the way Cloudinary sees it. But yeah, it's a great transition. I was just going to ask, so how does Cloudinary come into this mix? You said that this audio is stored with Cloudinary. How does it work with the templates that we're seeing before, like the Ball Vibes template? Where does Cloudinary come into play there?
Yeah, so all the imagery that you see here, the video imagery, all of it is stored at Cloudinary.
Cool.
So anything that the user uploads to our system goes straight to Cloudinary, and then it's pulled back into the editor when the user selects it for a particular project.
I think this kind of brings us into the next step, which is, now that we understand the functionality of Movidmo and what you're doing there, how did you make it work? Let's take a look under the hood and see some of the code that made this possible.
Sure. In terms of being a partner, it was easy. It's really easy to do. Basically, if you look at the Movidmo page and you view the source on this page, you're going to basically take a JavaScript file linked to Cloudinary and build it into your page using a script tag. And then it took me probably a couple of days to work through how I wanted to completely integrate it within Movidmo. But here's the primary code that does it. It's around 100 lines of code maybe total that basically Cloudinary provided, that I just customized a little bit. A cloud name, an API key, what you want the caption to say whenever you have the Cloudinary media library loaded. And I shouldn't say what this bit of code is doing. One of the things that I wanted to do with Movidmo, I got into Cloudinary very early in the development process and started using it for everything I possibly could. And when it came to building it as an integration, what I wanted to do is let my users who have their imagery and things of that nature have access to that Cloudinary platform for all the most excellent transforms that you guys do, from converting things to black and white to background removal, and all the things that Cloudinary really excels at. I wanted my users to have access to that. So that's what was the impetus for the media library integration. And so the idea here is that my user is going to take their cloud name, their API key from Cloudinary, which I do a little blurb that I'll show you in just a second about Cloudinary when they choose that option within Movidmo. And I'm going to take just a little bit of information from them and then open that media library, and I've got complete access to everything that Cloudinary has to offer. And it doesn't take much code, as you can see here. It's very simple to do this. And the media library widget that I have here adapts itself for images versus videos. You want to handle those a little bit differently. So there's space for doing that, different types of assets that you might want to load and things of that nature. But it's really easy to do. It's certainly easy after you've done it, but Cloudinary has a lot of great resources that make this not a pain in the neck to do.
Can you show us in Movidmo what this media library widget looks like and how someone would get to this from Movidmo?
Yeah, sure. No problem. Yeah. Just as a bit of a background here, I have my personal Cloudinary account here that I've logged into. I'm going to come over to Movidmo and I'm going to link to that personal account that I have. So let me do this. Let's just build a little something from scratch. Okay. So there's something very unique about the experience just starting from scratch that kind of, I think, makes you have a little bit different view of the software and how things are constructed. So let's try that. I chose the widescreen format there. And by default, when this loads, you're going to get like a kind of bland gray background. It's a gray video that's in the backdrop, but it's 15 seconds long. So I'm just going to delete that. It's just a placeholder. So let's connect to my personal Cloudinary account. And let me give you an overview of what we want to do here. So if I look at my media library within the Cloudinary site, okay, you can see these assets. This is my daughter here, her first day of school.
Wow.
Picture. This is my cat that could show up at any moment on my windowsill. It can tell when he blocks the keyboard when he wants attention. But I'm going to take all these back to school pictures I'm sure everybody's seen on Facebook. I thought we might just build something like that in Movidmo that's a little bit cooler than just the regular old back to school video. So I'm going to focus on this picture here of my daughter jumping, which took us an inordinate amount of time to get that just right. Like 10 minutes of her jumping repeatedly for me to actually get there. But we're going to use this picture as the basis for what we're going to develop in Movidmo. So let's do the connection first. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to add an image to the project. By the way, we do have the Unsplash image library. These are all free images to use, as is the case with Pixabay. These are all free images as well. And then under the uploads, you can see I've already uploaded this picture of my daughter. I've got it twice, one with the background removed. And what I want to show you guys is how basically I did this through Cloudinary. So I'm going to do it again and recreate this image here. So I'm going to choose upload and I'm going to do from Cloudinary. The other things you can do, you can upload your own file. You can draw. We have our own drawing tool. You can capture the camera. You can capture the screen, all those things. If you want to, a lot of people have been using Movidmo for development or a tutorial type of content. And so the capture stuff works well for that. But we're going to use Cloudinary. Here's my little blurb about Cloudinary. I think Maribel actually approved this at some point. I'm not sure. But the way it works is I've disconnected my account right now. So I'm starting from scratch on this. So I'm going to reconnect my Cloudinary account to my Movidmo account. I'm just going to copy these cloud names. All right. So I'm going to copy my cloud name and come over here and paste it in. And same with my API key. And I'm just going to connect. It'll load the media library. And to change the media library, you can just click on the little edit button up here at the top of the frame to change that. So you see the same imagery, of course, that you saw under my media library within the Cloudinary site. So what I'm going to do now is I got access to all this content. I can pull it into Movidmo. And in fact, you could upload other content to Cloudinary within this media library and then pull it into Movidmo as well. It's just important to note that you've got all the Cloudinary features at your fingertips here. So I'm going to come over to this picture of my daughter and let's do some advanced editing on this. I'm going to scroll down here. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to get rid of the background. Okay. So that's under the effect. And so I'm going to choose background removal under effect. And this is a JPEG image that I have. JPEGs don't support transparency. So I need to change the format here to PNG, which supports transparency. And then we could refresh this preview. I think we can just click add here and the add action will take that image from Cloudinary with the background removed and pull it into Movidmo.
Nice.
What's interesting about this process is it pulls it onto the client, back to the Movidmo server, and then back to Cloudinary under the Movidmo account from the user's personal account. So that's what's going on here behind the scenes.
Really
And
cool.
so here you have the basic image dialog for adding images to Movidmo. So let's talk about other things we might want to do with this image. We've got the background removed. One of the things I like doing with these sorts of images is putting a shadow on them. I'm going to set the offsets to 0 in terms of the X and Y offset. These are pixel offsets, and it's the same thing same way that you define a shadow in all of web development. I'm going to keep the blur of 5, and then let's change the color. I'm going to open up the full spectrum here the full color spectrum that we can use. The color for my daughter's school is this sort of green and gold. So I've got the hex for it. I'm going to copy that, come back over here and paste it in. And I'm going to choose that color. All right. So I'm going to start this on second 1 rather than second 2. Let's make a 7-second video. Okay. So the way this is set up now, currently, my daughter's going to slide down onto the screen. So we have about 80 different effects that you can use. What I want to do with this one is actually zoom her onto the screen. I'm going to make her zoom in larger. And I'm going to turn off the fade as well. And what you see here, this controls how fast the effect happens. So each dot represents a quarter of a second. So this is going to take up the full second for her to zoom onto the screen. And I'm just going to add her. Oh, one other thing I should have talked about. Let me double click to open up this dialog again. I want her on top of everything. So I'm going to put her in the watermark layer. I don't want to get too deep into the layers, but there's a watermark, a foreground, a background, and then the backdrop as well. So there's lots of layers that you can actually work with here in Movidmo. But I want her to be on top of everything I'm creating. So we've got her on the canvas. We can move her around, can resize her. The little green lines here.
Nice.
There you go. So I've got her nice and centered there. And every back to school image or video always has what year they are. So let's add some text here. So it's my daughter's junior year. And we've got all the Google fonts to choose from, or not all of them, but a few hundred of them that we have at our disposal. I want this to be big and bold, so I'm going to make it Bungie.
Sure.
It's a big, bold font. Okay, and I guess I'll keep the color of white. I want to keep that shadow going. Okay, so I'm going to make the offsets 0, and I'm going to add that blur of that green color. And let's see, how's the text going to come and go on the screen? So why don't we have it slide from the left? Once again, I'm just going to turn off the fade. I don't personally like the fade that much. So this bit of text will slide in from the left. And we can, just like we did with everything else, we can move it around. So I'm going to make it big. Really big. Okay. So I like this idea of, I'm not trained as a designer. I just play one on TV, but this is one of the design mistakes that I see a lot of people make is they don't they create designs, but there's no overlap between any of the elements. So with this particular one, I'm going to make it very different. So I'm going to make sure there's a lot of overlap between this. And also, go back to this image. Let's create a Ken Burns type of effect for this image. Okay, so let's do a zoom in. So as the video plays, my daughter Lucy here will move within the video as well. Let's preview it real quick. I've got it muted so we won't have any sound, but you can see the junior came in from the left and my daughter is moving across zooming in on my daughter as the video plays out. So that's the basic way that the editor works. Let me now just copy this guy and paste. I'm gonna move it down below here and I'm going to put year.
So many options. So many options.
Yeah. You can do lots of stuff here. Instead of having it slide from the left, I'm going to have year slide from the right. Okay. And so it has the same basic properties. Nice. Another nice thing about design is when you don't have the font sizes perfectly match. Let's do something like that. Maybe move it up just a wee bit. Yes. Now we've got our junior year on there. So now let's make it really cool. And let's use an animation. And so what I want to do here is I'm going to put an animation behind all of this so that it really makes it pop. And I think I'll use the beans animation. So let me just pop in this color here real quick. This yellow color is the other basic color from my daughter's school. And I'll pop this one in as well. Yellow. So this animation is just a tunnel view with these sort of like a flashing lights in the distance type of thing. We're going to have it up here on second one. Go after second 7 as well. Add. Oh, by the way, let me fix junior. I didn't have it go through 7. There we go. All right. So we've got our animation back behind here. I'm going to select it and then use the edge here to move it around. I'm going to make this the background of the whole thing. Something like that. I'll center it. And now we've got something that really pops.
I love this. As a parent, I'd be like, I'm going to send this video to all my friends. Announce that she's finally a junior, almost a senior.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot you can do with here. So let's just take a look at it now, okay, and see what we created with these 4 elements. It's visually interesting, right?
Oh, I love it. I love Burns effect. There's so many different things you can do. And even with your demo, I could just tell how many things we didn't even tap into yet. I just know there are so many options here, and it's really a choose your own adventure with design here.
It really is. Yeah. So I think you'll find lots of things that you would find in Canva and other tools like that. And when you think about, you got all the Cloudinary things that you can do, and then all the Movidmo things you can do, that's a pretty big world that you're living in from a design perspective.
Absolutely. And the thing is, DevJams is typically for our developer audience, and you're a developer. You built Movidmo, made this happen, but something else that developers aren't always awesome at, especially back-end engineers and people who usually work on the server side, is they don't always all have an eye for design. So this is a really easy way for developers and anyone who might be listening to this who got it all working behind the scenes, but they want it to look pretty, and an easy way to do that. And I think developers who might be listening for how did Webster make this work might also be able to glean from this episode, oh, this is an easy way to make things beautiful and engaging and keep people's attention and make them stay to see what I built behind the scenes.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it's certainly the goal in mind here. Something that people, if you do have a bit of a technical background, then you can really do a lot of stuff with. I think a lot of these terms, things like shadow and X and Y offset and things like that, all make a lot of sense. If you do come from that background, then there's certainly a very rich environment for you to work with. But if you don't, then we have templates and things like that are really designed to help you through that design process, create something that's more attractive. And most of my design, I've learned a lot about design by imitating and looking around at what other people are doing. I've read through books and things like that, but I'm not a professional designer, but I have developed more of an eye for it as I've developed Movidmo.
Absolutely. I've even learned about design from you today, right now. So something else I wanted to ask you, Weber, is did you have any roadblocks? And another question, follow up to that, is are you hoping to or planning to incorporate AI into the product, even for any of the design elements that we've looked at today?
I don't know if I've had any real roadblocks per se. One of the things that we had talked about before is that I am really hyper focused on developing this video editing tool, the client side video editing tool. The other part of Movidmo, and really maybe it is the roadblock, is the rendering engine. So when you publish this video, these files go to our server and are rendered as an MP4 file and soon an MOV file, because we want to be able to do transparent video content as well. That engine is extremely complex. And I would say it's probably about 25% of my time I've spent on that and 75% on this. But that server side development and the way that video is rendered and to make it pixel perfect is pretty complex and complicated. So that was probably my biggest roadblock, it would be the server side stuff. Cloudinary allowed me to get around a lot of things from a website development perspective. All the hosting of videos and images is done with Cloudinary. In addition to the integration that you see here, where users can pull in their own Cloudinary content, but we use Cloudinary for everything. The videos that are created and the way that they're downloaded with the Movidmo tool all uses Cloudinary for that. It really allowed me to focus on the other things, and Cloudinary took care of a lot of that basic, I want to call it website development work, but asset management, I guess is probably the right term. Took care of all those issues. And there's significant issues there, right? So hosting video is no joke, especially if you want to work on somebody's iPhone and their desktop and tablet and everything else. And Cloudinary's already figured all that out. So it's nice to take advantage of that and not have to reinvent all those wheels. In terms of AI, I'm a data scientist, so my training, that's what I spent most of my life doing as a statistics professor. But I haven't thought about that as much as you might have imagined based on my background. And I guess primarily the reason for that is I'm really focused on this client side development, and most of the AI stuff's done on the server in terms of the way most people integrate it. I haven't spent as much time thinking about that as I probably should have, to be honest. I have used ChatGPT to generate scripts for videos. It's really good at that. You can say, write a script for my car wash ad, and it will give you several versions if you ask it to. I've also asked it to find color combinations and font combinations and just make suggestions for fonts that work. Or I've asked it what font goes well with X font, and it will provide Y font. So I've used it for that type of thing. And what I clearly should be focused on, and it's in the back of my mind, is just the basics of the content generation that AI can do in terms of imagery and video. It would be nice to really build that stuff into Movidmo.
Yeah.
And if you could say, hey, I'm doing a car wash ad, make a video of a car wash, and then have the AI actually do that would be pretty incredible.
Oh, absolutely. I think we're just all scratching the surface of what's possible in this world with AI, and especially to do with video creation and image creation and what's all possible. But I'm so glad personally to hear that Cloudinary has really been able to help from so many different angles with what you've built in your company. So before we wrap up, is there anything else in the code that for our developer audience might be interesting to show?
In terms of if you want to know more about that background, it's pure JavaScript, just a tad bit of jQuery, and I kill it every chance I get as I stumble across it. It was one of those things for speed, right? I was doing some jQuery things just because I didn't want to take the time initially to come up with my own code for it, but I'm slowly beating the jQuery out of Movidmo, and it's all done in just pure JavaScript.
I'm in a similar position with projects that I've built using jQuery and now try to scoot it out of there as much as possible. Totally understand. Webster, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so lucky to have you as a guest, and we're really looking forward to what's next for Movidmo. We're really going to keep an eye out for all the cool new things you come up with.
Yeah, keep your eye out for animations. That's what I'm focused on. It's my favorite thing to do right now.
Awesome. All right. We'll talk soon. And thank you so much again for joining us today, Webster.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Nice chatting with you.
Maribel, let's talk about some takeaways from this episode. This was really fun. I personally learned a lot about Movidmo and can't wait to use it in my real life. But what about you? What are some things that the audience might have learned during this episode today?
Yeah, first off, I absolutely loved Webb's presentation and how he's incorporated Cloudinary. And I loved hearing his story. We all have these ideas of we want to build something, but do we actually do it? And the fact that he did it, and amazed. And yeah, but not just that, he makes it so easy to edit videos or to put videos together. Like, I'm not a designer. I can't think of how to design things or put things together. So the fact that you can do it from a template to be able to pull Cloudinary images or whatever images and animations and create this, just like he was saying, it's the Canva for videos, right? So I absolutely love that piece of it. And yeah, as far as what the takeaway, he told you how easy it was to integrate with our media library, the widgets in particular. I feel if there's somebody out there who's also trying to add content into their system, think about that media library widget that Cloudinary has. And it's the easiest way to integrate with Cloudinary. Yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes. I particularly want the AI version of what colors and what fonts should I use, because I'm not a designer. And yeah, so I'd love to see where he takes Movidmo. And it definitely was an eye-opener when I saw it from a tech partnership of how do you build a video from scratch or through templates easy with a user interface, right?
Yeah, such low barrier to entry. And it was cool to get that demo today because I think anyone can do it. Anyone can use Movidmo. And another big takeaway for me is just, I'm so blown away that this is a 2-person team. Think about Cloudinary. We're a 450-person company at this point. And I know how much everyone works to make what we have. And Webster has built a lot of this, at least the building part of it, on his own. And it's an awesome app and so many people can use it. And I think it's been really inspiring for me to hear that, because I know so much has gone into it, but it seems like, wow, a lot of people could do this. And you can integrate with certain technologies that can help you what you're trying to do in an easy way. And it's just been really heartening and inspiring for me to see that you don't always need a big team and an expensive office space. This is something you could do from your home and have a company that's successful on your own. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with Webster.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Yeah.
This was such a great episode. And before we sign off, I just wanted to say that we have tons of other podcasts available at cloudinary.com/podcast, where we interview other developers and people who have built interesting, innovative things with Cloudinary. We have options to sort by industry trends or by certain products. We have 2 podcasts. We have DevJams and we have NX Matters, which is one that Maribel is a host of regularly. We're so happy to have Maribel with us today on DevJams. Be sure to check that out at cloudinary.com/podcast. Another thing I wanted to highlight before we sign off is that we have community.cloudinary.com, where you can go and talk to other developers. We have a Discord. You have a place to ask questions and make announcements and just get in touch with other developers who are doing similar things to you, or to be inspired by other developers who are doing similar things to you or what you might want to do someday using Cloudinary. With that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And on behalf of myself and Maribel, thank you, and stay tuned for more that we have coming. Take care.